The scent came first, wild pine and damp earth after rainfall, then sound, low murmurs and distant howls that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards beneath me. I opened my eyes to unfamiliar wooden beams crossing a high ceiling, my fingers clutching sheets that weren't mine, in a room I'd never seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as I tried to piece together where I was and how I'd gotten here. The last thing I remembered was driving along the mountain pass, the storm lashing my windshield. And then, nothing. Just darkness until now. I sat up slowly, wincing at the dull ache in my temples. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The room was spacious yet sparse, wooden furniture, neutral colors, and a large painting of a forest hanging on the far wall. A glass of water sat on the nightstand beside a small silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. The pendant seemed to call to me. I reached for it, my fingers trembling as they closed around the cool metal. Something about it felt familiar, though I couldn't place why. My mother had owned something similar, hadn't she? Before she disappeared into these very mountains 3 years ago, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions, and this heirloom I'd somehow lost track of. Voices approached from beyond the heavy oak door. I quickly slipped the pendant into the pocket of the oversized flannel shirt I was wearing, clothes that weren't mine either, and swung my legs over the edge of the bed. "She's awake," a female voice said from the hallway. Not a question, but a statement. How could they possibly know? The door swung open, and a woman with copper skin and sharp eyes entered, followed by 2 others. Their movements were fluid, almost predatory, as they assessed me. Though they wore ordinary clothes, jeans and sweaters against the mountain chill, something about them seemed distinctly untamed. "You're safe," the woman said, though her tone carried no warmth. "I'm Serena, pack healer." Pack healer? My mind struggled to make sense of her words. Where am I? My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, raspy and uncertain. "Moonridge territory. Ethan found you unconscious after your car crashed." Serena's gaze was penetrating, searching. "You smell different now." I blinked, confusion washing over me. "Excuse me?" One of the others, a younger woman with a cascade of dark hair, leaned forward and inhaled deeply. "She's right. You're not what you were before the accident." The third visitor, a tall man with shoulders like a mountainside, stepped closer. "You're an Omega now." The word hung in the air between us. Omega. It should have meant nothing to me, should have sounded like nonsense, yet something deep within me recognized it, responded to it, like a name I'd forgotten I had. "I don't understand." My fingers curled around the edge of the mattress. "What happened to me? What's an Omega?" Serena's expression softened marginally. "The accident changed you. Sometimes trauma can trigger a dormant shift in humans with certain ancestral connections." My mother's face flashed in my memory. Her warnings about these mountains, about the full moon, about staying away. Warnings I'd ignored when I'd finally gathered enough courage to search for her. "You're saying I'm... what? A werewolf?" The words felt ridiculous leaving my lips, yet the 3 exchanged glances that sent ice through my veins. "That's impossible. Your mother never told you about your lineage, did she?" Serena asked quietly. My breath caught. "You knew my mother?" Everyone knew Isabella. The man's voice had dropped an octave. "She was supposed to be the alpha female before she fled." The room seemed to tilt around me. My mother, quiet, gentle, always looking over her shoulder, had been part of this? Part of them? "An Omega is rare," the younger woman continued, something like envy coloring her tone. "The peacekeeper, the heart of the pack. You'll feel others' emotions, calm their storms. I don't want to feel anyone's emotions," I said, standing abruptly. "I want to go home." The 3 exchanged glances again, this time with unmistakable tension. "That's not possible," Serena said flatly. "The change is irreversible, and unmated Omegas are too valuable to leave unclaimed and unprotected." "Unclaimed?" The word sent a chill down my spine. "I'm not something to be claimed. I'm a person." A commotion arose outside. Voices raised, heavy footfalls. something between urgency and deference in the tones. The three visitors stiffened simultaneously, their attention snapping to the door. "He's coming," the younger woman whispered, something like fear or awe in her voice. He must have sensed her awakening. "Who?" I demanded, but I could already feel it, a presence approaching like an oncoming storm, heavy and electric. Every hair on my body stood on end as something primal inside me responded, like a tuning fork struck at precisely the right frequency. "Roman," Serena answered, stepping aside as the footsteps grew louder. "The Alpha King." The door burst open, and the world seemed to stop. He filled the doorframe completely. Tall and broad, with midnight hair and eyes like winter storms. Power radiated from him in palpable waves that made the air thick and heavy. A jagged scar ran from his temple to his jaw, somehow making his severe beauty more striking rather than marring it. But it wasn't his imposing presence that stole my breath. It was the way his silver gaze locked onto mine with immediate recognition, hungry and possessive, yet tinged with something that looked almost like relief. "Mine," he growled, the single word reverberating through the room and settling into my bones like it had always belonged there. The pendant in my pocket seemed to burn against my thigh. The others in the room had lowered their eyes and backed away, creating space between us as Roman stepped forward. "You don't even know me," I whispered, fighting the inexplicable pull I felt toward him. His lips curved into something too sharp to be a smile. "I've known you were mine since the moment you crossed into my territory 3 days ago. I've been waiting for you to wake up." He reached out, his fingertips hovering just shy of my face. "Waiting for you to become what you were always meant to be." I stepped back, bumping against the bed frame. "I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. I came here looking for my mother, not whatever this is." Something flashed in his eyes, surprise, perhaps even respect at my defiance. Behind him, I heard Serena's sharp intake of breath. "No one denied the Alpha," her reaction seemed to say. "Isabella's daughter," Roman said thoughtfully. "That explains much." His gaze trailed over me, assessing. But not everything. Before I could respond, the floor beneath us trembled. Shouts erupted from somewhere outside, urgent and alarmed. Roman's posture changed instantly, all his focus shifting from me to the threat. "Border breach," he growled to Serena. "Northern quadrant. Hunters?" she asked, already moving. "Worse." His jaw tightened. "Blackwater pack. They must have sensed her too." His gaze cut back to me, intense and burning. "They cannot have her." The possessiveness in his voice should have angered me, but something else overrode that. The unmistakable scent of fear permeating the room. Not from Roman, but from the others. Even as newly awakened as I was, I could sense their terror at the mention of Blackwater. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Roman's expression darkened. "War." He reached for me again, and this time, his warm fingers wrapped around my wrist, sending a shock of sensation up my arm. "And you've just become its most valuable prize." I wanted to pull away, to run, to reject everything about this impossible situation. But the pendant in my pocket seemed to pulse in time with my heartbeat, and some new instinct whispered that I'd been running my entire life. Maybe it was time to finally face what I'd been running from. As Roman pulled me toward the door, toward the sound of chaos unfolding, one certainty crystallized in my mind. Nothing would ever be the same again. I'd awoken as an Omega, in a world of wolves and predators, and somehow, the most dangerous of them all had already decided I belonged to him. What he didn't know was that I had spent a lifetime being underestimated. If I was truly my mother's daughter, this stranger who had apparently been powerful enough to walk away from an alpha, then perhaps I had more strength than any of them realized. I felt Roman's gaze on me as we moved through the doorway, his grip firm, but not painful. "Stay close to me," he commanded softly, and despite every rational thought screaming against it, I did. The corridor outside my room bustled with activity, people rushing past with purpose, some carrying weapons, others shifting before my eyes into forms that made my breath catch. Halfway human, halfway wolf, their bodies contorted in a transformation that should have been impossible, yet somehow seemed fluid and natural. Roman's hand remained firmly around my wrist as he guided me through the chaos, his body a shield between me and everyone else. The contact sent waves of warmth up my arm, strange and intimate. I could feel his pulse through his fingertips, steady and strong, betraying none of the urgency around us. "The safe room," he commanded to a burly man who appeared at his side. "Prepare it." "Already done, Alpha," the man responded, his gaze flickering curiously to me before dropping respectfully. We descended a grand staircase into what appeared to be the main hall of an enormous lodge. Exposed beams crossed the high ceiling, and a massive stone fireplace dominated one wall. Through tall windows, I caught glimpses of forest and mountains beyond, and figures racing between the trees, some on 2 legs, others on 4. "What exactly is happening?" I asked, struggling to keep pace with Roman's long strides. "The Blackwater Pack has been our enemy for generations," he replied without slowing. "They want what isn't theirs. They always have. And that includes me now." The reality of my situation was still settling in, surreal and dreamlike. Roman stopped abruptly, turning to face me. People continued to move around us, but they gave us a wide berth, as if an invisible force field surrounded the Alpha. "An Omega hasn't been born into any pack for over 50 years, he said, his voice low. "You're not just rare, you're nearly mythical. Your presence strengthens the pack bonds, brings stability, peace." His eyes darkened. "For a pack like Blackwater, ruled by cruelty and fear, an Omega would be a weapon." "I'm not a weapon," I said firmly. "I'm not a prize. I'm lost," he finished for me, something gentler crossing his severe features. "Searching for your mother. I know." The mention of my mother refocused me. "You said everyone knew her. Is she—" A tremendous crash interrupted us as the massive front doors of the lodge burst open. A group of bloodied warriors staggered in, carrying an injured pack member between them. The scent of blood hit me like a physical force, and with it came waves of pain and fear that weren't my own. I gasped, doubling over as unfamiliar emotions flooded through me. Panic, agony, desperation. They washed over me in relentless waves. "Breathe," Roman commanded, his hand moving to the small of my back. "This is part of what it means to be an Omega. You feel their pain." "Make it stop," I whispered, fighting the urge to vomit. "You can help him." Serena appeared beside us, her earlier coolness replaced by urgent need. "Come." Before I could protest, she was guiding me toward the injured man they'd laid on a table. His chest rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths, blood soaking through his torn shirt from what looked like claw marks. Up close, his pain hit me even harder, making my vision swim. "Put your hands on him," Serena instructed. "Just focus on calm, on peace." "I don't know how to do this," I protested. "Your instincts do," Roman said from behind me, his presence solid and unwavering. Hesitantly, I placed my trembling hands on the man's shoulders. His skin burned beneath my touch, and his agony threatened to pull me under. But then something shifted. A connection opened between us, and I found myself sending calm through that connection, like cool water over flames. The man's breathing slowed, his features relaxing. The pain didn't disappear, but it receded enough that Serena could begin treating his wounds. "Thank you, Omega," he whispered, his eyes fluttering open to meet mine with reverence I didn't deserve. I pulled my hands away, stunned by what had happened. "I didn't do anything. I just—" "You eased his suffering," Roman said quietly. "That's the gift of an Omega, a gift I never asked for," I wanted to say. But the words died in my throat as I saw the gratitude in the injured man's eyes. "Alpha," a voice called from the doorway. A woman stood there, her clothes torn, blood streaking her face. "They're regrouping at the northern border. At least 30 of them." Roman's expression hardened again. "They brought their full strength. They must have been watching, waiting for her to turn. How could they know?" I asked. "A traitor," Serena said grimly, not looking up from her work. "Someone's been feeding them information." Roman's hand returned to my arm, guiding me away from the makeshift medical area. "You need to be somewhere secure. If Blackwater breaches our defenses—" "I want to help," I interrupted, surprised by my own words. He studied me, conflict evident in his expression. "The best way you can help is by staying safe." "That's not what my mother would have done, is it?" I challenged. The words were a shot in the dark, but from the way his jaw tightened, I knew I'd hit my mark. Isabella was born to this life, he countered. You've been an Omega for less than an hour, and already helped save that man's life, I pointed out. Newfound confidence rising within me, the silver pendant in my pocket seemed to grow warmer, almost pulsing against my thigh. Tell me about my mother, please. Roman's gaze flicked to the chaos around us, then back to me. Now isn't the time. It might be the only time, if those Blackwater wolves are as dangerous as everyone seems to think. I held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated despite the power radiating from him. Something like respect flickered across his face. Your mother was supposed to be my father's mate, he said finally. She was an alpha female, strong, fierce, beloved by the pack. But the night before their bonding ceremony, she disappeared. His voice hardened. Many believed she betrayed us, ran to Blackwater. Others thought hunters had taken her. She never mentioned any of this, I said, struggling to reconcile this image with the quiet, cautious woman who'd raised me. She was always afraid, always looking over her shoulder. With good reason, Roman replied. If either Blackwater or our pack had found her with a half-grown daughter who might inherit her powers. Another crash interrupted us, this one closer, followed by the sound of breaking glass and snarling. Roman pushed me behind him instantly, his body tensing as he faced the threat. 3 enormous wolves burst through a side entrance, their fur matted with blood, teeth bared. Behind them came fighters, half-shifted creatures with the worst aspects of both human and wolf, their movements jerky and wrong, eyes glowing with malevolence. Blackwater, Roman growled, and before my eyes, his form rippled and changed. Where the Alpha King had stood moments before, a massive black wolf now crouched, his shoulders reaching my chest, silver eyes the only feature recognizable from his human form. He lunged forward, meeting the first attacker with a force that shook the floor beneath my feet. Around me, others were shifting too. Roman's pack members transforming to defend their home. The sounds of combat filled the air. Snarls, screams, the wet sound of teeth sinking into flesh. I backed against the wall, terror freezing me in place as I watched Roman fight. Despite being outnumbered, he moved with lethal precision, taking down one attacker after another. But even as I watched, more Blackwater wolves poured in through the broken entrance. Something sharp clawed at my senses. A bitter smell, acrid and chemical. The Blackwater wolves were different, I realized. Wrong, somehow. Their movements were too erratic, their eyes too wild. They're drugged! Serena appeared beside me, pressing a silver knife into my hand. Some concoction their alpha forces on them to make them stronger, more aggressive, but it burns them out eventually. Kills them. That's horrible, I whispered, clutching the knife awkwardly. That's Blackwater. Her expression was grim. If they take you, that's what they'll use your gifts for. To keep the drugged ones functional longer. To extend their suffering. The thought made bile rise in my throat. I clutched the pendant in my pocket with my free hand, drawing strength from its familiar contours. Across the room, Roman dispatched another attacker, but not before sharp claws raked across his flank, drawing blood. I felt his pain like a blow to my own body, making me gasp. Focus, Serena commanded. Use your connection to him. Support him. I don't know how, I said desperately. The same way you helped the injured fighter. Reach for him with your mind. It sounded impossible, but I closed my eyes, trying to find that same thread of connection I'd felt earlier. For several heartbeats, there was nothing. Then, suddenly, I felt him. A presence so powerful it nearly overwhelmed me. Roman's consciousness burned like a bonfire, fierce and protective, fueled by rage and something else. Something tied to me. I sensed strength through that connection, trying to soothe his pain without dampening his fighting spirit. His silver eyes found mine across the chaotic room, widening slightly in surprise. I felt his acknowledgement, his gratitude, and beneath it, a possessiveness that should have frightened me but somehow didn't. A snarl from my right broke my concentration. A Blackwater wolf had spotted me. his muzzle curling back to reveal blood-stained fangs as he charged. I raised the silver knife, knowing it would do little against such a creature. But before he reached me, another form intercepted him, a sleek gray wolf that moved like quicksilver, taking the attacker down with precise ferocity. When the gray wolf turned, her eyes met mine with familiar intensity. Serena, I realized, recognizing something in her gaze that transcended her wolf form. She positioned herself protectively before me as two more attackers approached. I raised the knife again, determined not to be helpless, even as fear threatened to paralyze me. Then the pendant in my pocket grew searingly hot. I pulled it out reflexively, gasping as it glowed silver blue in my palm. The approaching wolves faltered, backing away from the light with whimpers of fear. "The moonstone," I heard someone whisper. "She bears the moonstone." The fighting around us slowed, attention turning to the glowing pendant in my hand. Roman broke away from his opponent, returning to my side in a few powerful bounds. Even in wolf form, his presence next to me felt right somehow, aligned. A massive gray wolf with a scarred face pushed to the front of the remaining Blackwater attackers, his eyes fixed on the pendant, then on me, hatred and covetousness mingling in his gaze. "Vain," Serena hissed, having shifted back to human form, unmindful of her nakedness. "Blackwater's alpha." The scarred wolf snarled, then, in a fluid motion, shifted to his human form, a man with the same scarred face, his body corded with lean muscle, eyes cold and calculating. "The prodigal daughter returns," he said, his voice surprisingly soft for such a dangerous predator. "With Isabella's moonstone, no less." "How convenient," Roman growled beside me, his massive body tense to attack. "Easy, Roman," Vane smiled, revealing teeth that remained oddly sharp even in human form. "I'm simply here to welcome the Omega home. After all," his gaze slid back to me, "she belongs with her mother's chosen pack." The pendant pulsed in my hand as a terrible suspicion dawned. "Where is my mother?" I demanded, stepping forward despite Roman's warning growl. Vane's smile widened. "Come to Blackwater territory, and I'll reunite you." He gestured to his remaining fighters, who began backing toward the exit. 3 days, little Omega, then I'll come for you again, unless you come to me first." With that, he shifted back to wolf form and retreated with his pack, leaving destruction and wounded fighters in their wake. Roman shifted back to human form beside me, unmindful of his nakedness as he turned to face me, his expression thunderous. "You will not go to him. If he has my mother, he's lying," Roman cut me off. "Isabella would never join Blackwater. Never." But I could see the doubt in his eyes. The old wound. He couldn't be certain, and neither could I. The pendant continued to glow in my palm, casting eerie blue light across Roman's features. He reached out slowly, his fingers hovering above it without touching. "The moonstone was lost when she left," he said quietly. "It's been missing for 20 years. How did you get it?" I closed my fingers around the pendant, feeling its warmth. "It's been in my jewelry box for as long as I can remember. I never knew what it was." I met his gaze steadily. "What exactly is it?" Roman's expression was unreadable as he studied me. "The Alpha's mate's symbol of authority. The heart of the pack." His eyes darkened. "And further proof that you were always meant to be mine." Night fell over the Moonridge territory, bringing with it a tense quiet that felt more dangerous than the chaos of the attack. The wounded had been treated, the dead honored, the destruction catalogued with grim efficiency. Through it all, I remained at the center of attention, pack members approaching to introduce themselves with reverence in their eyes, their emotions washing over me in waves I was still learning to navigate. Roman had reluctantly left my side to coordinate patrols and defenses, though I felt his awareness of me like a tether between us, stretching but never breaking. In his absence, Serena had taken responsibility for me, leading me through the lodge that served as the pack's central gathering place. "You need to eat," she said, guiding me toward a large dining hall where tables were being filled with food brought by pack members. "The change burns through energy, and you've been using your gifts." I followed her numbly, the events of the day catching up with me. My body ached with exhaustion, yet my mind raced with questions. The moonstone pendant now hung around my neck, its glow having faded to a subtle shimmer that only appeared when touched directly. How can I be this thing, this Omega, when I never even knew werewolves existed until today? I asked as Serena filled a plate for me. Shouldn't there have been signs? Serena's expression softened slightly. There probably were. Heightened senses, unusual empathy, dreams of running beneath the moon. She studied my face. Your mother would have recognized them and likely tried to suppress them. There are herbs, rituals, ways to delay the change. I thought back to the bitter tea my mother had insisted I drink each month during the full moon, claiming it helped with women's troubles. The protective charms she'd hung in our windows. The boundaries she'd set about where I could and couldn't go. She was trying to protect me from this life, I murmured. Or trying to keep you from your destiny, Serena countered, her tone neutral. Eat. We can debate Isabella's motivations later. I picked at the food without tasting it, watching the pack members around us. Despite the day's violence, there was something beautiful in their interactions, an easy familiarity, a sense of belonging I'd never experienced. Children ran between tables. Elders were treated with deference. Couples touched each other with casual intimacy. The moonstone, I said, touching the pendant through my borrowed shirt. Roman said it's the alpha mate symbol. But if my mother had it? Isabella was to be alpha female, the king's mate, Serena confirmed. When she fled, she took the moonstone with her. Some believed it was why she left, to steal its power. And what do you believe? I asked, watching her carefully. Serena's eyes met mine, measuring. I believe there are always more sides to a story than the ones we're told. I believe Isabella made her choices for reasons that made sense to her. She paused. And I believe the moonstone returning with her daughter is no coincidence. Before I could press further, a hush fell over the dining hall. I felt his presence before I saw him. Roman entering the space with that same commanding aura that seemed to alter the very air around him. He'd cleaned up since the battle, his dark hair still damp, dressed now in a simple black Henley jeans that did nothing to diminish his imposing presence. His eyes found me immediately, relief flashing briefly across his features, before his expression resumed its usual guarded intensity. He made his way directly to our table, pack members nodding respectfully as he passed. The borders are secured, he said without preamble, taking the seat beside me. Blackwater has withdrawn to their territory for now. For now, I echoed. But Vane said 3 days. Vane says many things, Roman replied, his jaw tightening. Few of them true. And my mother? Was that a lie too? Roman's silver eyes studied me intently. I've sent scouts to gather intelligence. If Isabella is with Blackwater, willingly or otherwise, we'll find out. It wasn't the reassurance I wanted, but it was honest. I appreciated that he hadn't offered empty promises. You should rest, he continued, reaching for a piece of bread from my plate with casual intimacy that sent a strange flutter through my stomach. Tomorrow I'll show you our territory. Explain more about what it means to be part of this pack. I haven't agreed to be part of anything, I reminded him, his lips curved slightly. Yet you wear the moonstone. I touched the pendant defensively. It was my mother's. And now it's yours, he countered. By blood and by right. Before I could argue further, a commotion arose near the hall's entrance. A young wolf burst in, his expression urgent as he sought Roman. Alpha, we found something, someone, at the eastern border. Roman was on his feet instantly. Who? The messenger's eyes darted to me, then back to Roman. A woman. Human, we thought at first, but she bears your father's mark. The room went deadly silent. I felt the shock ripple through the gathered pack members, their emotions hitting me in a dizzying wave. Hope, disbelief, suspicion, fear, all focused on the messenger's words. Where? Roman's voice was dangerously soft. The healing quarters. Serena's apprentices are with her now. Roman turned to me, conflict evident in his expression. Stay here, he commanded, then more gently. Please. But I was already standing. If it's her, if it's my mother, I'm coming with you. For a moment I thought he would refuse, would exert his alpha authority to make me stay behind. Instead, he gave a curt nod, extending his hand to me. I took it, ignoring the whispers that followed us as we left the dining hall. We moved quickly through the lodge, the young messenger leading the way to a separate wing I hadn't seen before. The air here smelled of herbs and medicine, of pain and healing. Roman's hand tightened around mine as we approached a closed door where 2 guards stood at attention. "Alpha," they acknowledged, stepping aside. Roman paused, turning to face me. His expression had lost some of its hardness, revealing something almost vulnerable beneath. "Whatever we find in there, whoever she is, remember that you aren't alone anymore." His thumb brushed across my knuckles in a surprisingly tender gesture. "You have me now. You have the pack." Mao. The intensity in his eyes made it difficult to breathe. I nodded, unable to form words around the lump in my throat. This man who had claimed me so possessively, who had fought like a demon to protect his territory, was looking at me now with something that seemed dangerously close to tenderness. He pushed the door open, and we stepped inside. The room was warm and dimly lit, smelling strongly of medicinal herbs and blood. In the center, on a narrow bed, lay a woman, thin to the point of gauntness. Her once blonde hair now streaked with gray, her face lined with years of hardship. But even after 2 decades, even with the changes time and suffering had wrought, I would have known her anywhere. "Mom," I whispered, my voice breaking. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound. The same eyes I saw in the mirror each morning, though now dulled with pain and exhaustion. Recognition dawned slowly, followed by horror. "No," she rasped, trying to push herself up. "No, you can't be here. You have to run." I rushed to her side, taking her frail hand in mine. "Mom, it's okay. You're safe now. We're both safe." But she was shaking her head frantically, her gaze moving past me to Roman. "You don't understand. They let me go. They let me escape." "Who did, Isabella?" Roman asked, moving to stand beside me. "Blackwater?" My mother's laugh was a broken sound. "Blackwater was just a puppet, just like your father was, just like all of us." Her eyes returned to me, desperate. "I tried so hard to keep you from this place, from this life. I did everything to suppress your nature, to hide you from them." "From who, Mom?" I asked, squeezing her hand. "The Council." She spat the word like poison. "The ones who rule from shadows, who use us like game pieces." Her gaze traveled to the moonstone hanging from my neck, and fresh terror filled her eyes. "You're wearing it. Oh God, you're wearing it." "It's just a pendant," I said, confused by her reaction. "It's always been in my jewelry box." "Because I hid it there," she whispered. "To keep it close but dormant. As long as you never wore it, never activated it, they couldn't track you." Roman's expression had darkened. "The Council is a myth, Isabella. A story to frighten pups." "Is it?" My mother's gaze was challenging despite her weakness. "Then why did your father die exactly as the prophecy foretold? Why did the 3 blood moons come? Why did the firstborn sons of 7 pack lines perish in a single night?" She clutched my hand desperately. "And why did they torture me for 20 years, demanding to know where I'd hidden the moonstone?" I felt sick, the food I'd eaten earlier threatening to come back up. "Someone tortured you? For 20 years? Until I escaped 3 days ago." Her eyes filled with tears, but they let me go. "To draw you out, to find the stone." She tried to pull the pendant from my neck. "Take it off. Destroy it before they—" The window exploded inward in a shower of glass. Roman moved with supernatural speed, shielding both my mother and me with his body as 3 black-clad figures entered through the shattered opening. They moved with inhuman grace, their faces obscured by strange masks that covered everything but their eyes that glowed an unnatural violet. "The Council sends its regards," one of them said, voice distorted to an inhuman pitch. "And thanks you for activating the stone, little Omega. You've made you and your mother so much easier to find." Roman growled, his body beginning to shift. "You are not welcome in my territory." "Your territory?" The figure laughed, the sound like grinding metal. "Your kind has never owned anything. You merely borrow it until we have need of it." They moved in perfect synchronization, withdrawing weapons that gleamed silver in the dim light. Not ordinary silver, I realized with a jolt of fear, wolfsbane-infused silver that could kill a werewolf with even a small cut. Roman lunged at them, partially shifted, his movements a blur of savage grace. But the masked figures were inhumanly fast, ducking and weaving around his attacks with practiced ease. "Get Isabella out of here," Roman shouted to me between blows. I tried to help my mother stand, but she was too weak, her body trembling with the effort. "Leave me," she begged. "Run, I'm not leaving you," I said firmly. "Not when I just found you again." One of the masked figures broke away from the fight with Roman, advancing toward us with measured steps. "How touching," it said, raising its blade. "The reunion we've waited so long to witness." The moonstone at my throat grew hot suddenly, pulsing with blue light that filled the room. The advancing figure hesitated, its glowing eyes narrowing. "Impossible," it hissed. "The stone responds to her will." My mother's expression shifted from fear to fierce pride. "My daughter is more than you bargained for," she said, her voice stronger now. "More than I knew she could be." I didn't understand what was happening, only that the pendant seemed to be reacting to my emotions. My fear, my determination to protect my mother. Acting on instinct, I grasped it fully in my palm, focusing on that determination, on the newfound strength I'd discovered since waking in this new life. The blue light intensified, coalescing into a shield-like barrier between us and our attacker. The masked figure recoiled, raising an arm to shield its eyes. "Roman!" I called out. "The light! Use the light!" Somehow he understood. With a powerful leap, he drove the two figures he was fighting toward the blue glow. When they contacted the light, they screamed. An inhuman sound of agony that set my teeth on edge. Their bodies seemed to blur, to lose definition, as if the light was unraveling whatever magic held them together. "Fall back!" the third figure commanded, and with extraordinary speed, all three retreated through the window and disappeared into the night. The room fell silent save for our heavy breathing. The moonstone's light dimmed slowly until it was just a pendant again, though it remained warm against my skin. "What was that?" I asked shakily. "What just happened?" Roman's expression was grave as he shifted fully back to human form. "Something I thought was just a legend. The moonstone's true power awakening." His gaze moved from me to my mother. But only an alpha pair should be able to wield it that way. My mother struggled to sit up, her eyes never leaving my face. "Unless the Omega is also an alpha female by birth." Her voice was quiet, but clear. "Unless she's the last of a royal bloodline thought to be extinct." "Mom?" I whispered, not understanding. She smiled sadly. "I never told you about your father." "How could I?" "He was the last alpha of the Silvercrest pack, wiped out by the council for defying them." She reached for my face, her fingers trembling as they traced my cheek. "You're not just an Omega, my darling. You're a royal alpha female born with an Omega's gifts, the first in 1,000 years." Roman inhaled sharply. "The Balancer," he murmured. "The one from the ancient prophecy." "What prophecy?" I asked, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. "When moon and blood combine in one," my mother recited wearily. "When alpha strength and Omega heart unite, the council's reign shall be undone. That's why they hunted you," Roman said, understanding dawning. "Not just for the moonstone, but because you carried his child." She nodded, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. "I ran from your father, Roman, because I knew what our union would bring: war, bloodshed, death. I couldn't bear it." Her eyes filled with tears, but all I did was delay the inevitable. "Now the council knows she exists, knows she can control the moonstone. They won't stop coming." Roman moved closer, his hand finding mine again. "Let them come," he said, his voice deadly calm. "They've hidden in shadows too long, manipulated our kind, set us against each other." His gaze met mine, fierce and determined. "Together we can end their rule." "Together," I echoed, the word feeling right on my tongue despite the absurdity of the situation. Just days ago, I'd been a normal woman searching for her missing mother. Now I was an Omega werewolf, apparently also an alpha by birth, wielding a magical moonstone and being hunted by a shadowy council I hadn't known existed. Yet as I stood there between my newly found mother and the man who had claimed me as his own, I felt something I'd never expected. Purpose. Clarity. Belonging. The moonstone warmed against my skin, as if affirming my thoughts. "They'll come again," my mother warned. "Stronger next time, with greater numbers. And we'll be ready," Roman said, his thumb tracing circles on my hand. "The packs will unite under a true alpha pair." "You're assuming I agree to be your mate," I pointed out, though the challenge in my voice was undermined by the way my body instinctively leaned toward his. His lips curved into that almost smile again. "I'm assuming nothing. I'm hoping." His voice dropped lower, meant for my ears alone, claiming you as mine was instinct. "Earning your choice will be my privilege." The sincerity in his words caught me off guard, warming something deep within me. This fierce, powerful alpha was offering me choice, something I suspected didn't come naturally to his kind. My mother's hand tightened around mine. "Dawn comes soon," she said, her eyes beginning to droop with exhaustion. With it, decisions. Roman nodded, stepping back. "Rest, Isabella. You're home now, under my protection." He looked at me. "Both of you." As he turned to leave, to give orders for increased security, and to spread word of what had happened, I felt the tether between us stretch again. But now I understood it better, not just his claim on me, but something more profound, a connection that had been waiting to form perhaps for generations. I settled beside my mother's bed, holding her hand as she drifted into an uneasy sleep. Outside, the moon hung heavy in the sky, casting silver light through the broken window. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled. Roman's pack, I realized, calling to each other, warning their enemies, protecting their territory. Their territory. Our territory. I touched the moonstone, feeling its dormant power humming beneath my fingertips. In just one day, everything I'd believed about myself and my life had changed. I'd awakened as an Omega in a werewolf pack, unaware the Alpha King had already chosen me. Now I understood why, not just instinct or possession, but prophecy. Destiny. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I found myself wondering what tomorrow would bring, and how it would feel to stand beside Roman as his equal, his partner in the battles to come. Not just his chosen Omega, but his chosen queen. Dawn painted the mountains in hues of lavender and gold as I stood on the balcony outside Roman's private quarters. He'd insisted I stay there after the attack. The safest place in the territory, he'd claimed, though I suspected his motivations weren't entirely about security. My mother had been moved to an adjoining room, where Serena watched over her, administering healing herbs and monitoring her recovery. I hadn't slept. How could I, with everything I'd learned? Instead, I'd spent the night poring over ancient texts Roman had provided, histories of the werewolf packs, legends of the council, and the complete prophecy my mother had quoted only in part. The full verse was more ominous than I'd expected. When moon and blood combine in one, when alpha strength and omega heart unite, the council's reign shall be undone. But only through the greatest sacrifice. The chosen pair must bleed as one. To break the bonds of endless night, the greatest sacrifice part troubled me deeply, as did the references to bleeding in bonds. But what unsettled me most was how right it felt, how the words seemed to resonate with something deep within me, as if my body had always known what my mind was just discovering. "You should be resting," Roman's deep voice came from behind me. I turned to find him watching me from the doorway, his powerful frame silhouetted against the warm light of his quarters. Despite having offered me his bed, he'd spent the night elsewhere, a gesture of respect that had surprised me. "So should you," I countered. "You fought harder than anyone yesterday." He moved to join me at the railing, his shoulder nearly touching mine. "Alpha healing. My wounds are already gone." I glanced at him sideways. In the soft morning light, his severe features seemed less harsh, almost vulnerable. The scar that ran along his jawline caught the sunlight, and I found myself wondering how he'd gotten it, and why it hadn't healed with his alpha abilities. "I read the prophecy," I said. "The full version." Roman nodded, his eyes on the forest spread below us. "I thought you might." The greatest sacrifice, I quoted. That doesn't sound promising. His lips curved slightly. Prophecies are rarely straightforward. What seems like sacrifice might be something else entirely. Like what? Like surrender, he said quietly. Like letting go of what we think we know, what we think we want, to embrace something greater. I studied his profile. This man who had claimed me so possessively just yesterday, yet now spoke of surrender. Is that what you're doing? Surrendering? His silver eyes met mine, intense and unguarded. Every moment since I first caught your scent on the wind. He turned fully toward me. I was raised to believe an alpha never bows, never yields, never shows weakness. Yet here I am, hoping for the favor of an omega, who challenges every command, who questions every tradition. Is that a complaint? I asked, raising an eyebrow. An admission, he corrected, his voice dropping lower. That you've brought me to my knees without even trying. The confession stole my breath. This powerful alpha, admitting weakness. For me. The moonstone warmed against my skin, responding to the surge of emotion his words evoked. I don't know how to be what everyone needs me to be, I admitted. An omega, an alpha female, some prophesied savior. I was just a regular woman 3 days ago. No, Roman shook his head. You were never just anything. You were always extraordinary. You just didn't know why. His certainty was both flattering and overwhelming. Before I could respond, a soft knock came at the door. Serena entered, her expression grave. Isabella is awake, she announced, and she has more to tell. We followed her to my mother's room, where I found her sitting up in bed, still frail but more alert than the previous night. Her eyes brightened when she saw me, then turned wary as Roman entered behind me. You look so much like him, she said softly, studying my face. Your father. The same determined chin, the same way of tilting your head when you're thinking. I sat beside her, taking her hand. Tell me about him. Please. She smiled sadly. Adrian was magnificent. The alpha of Silvercrest, the most ancient of all werewolf bloodlines. They were smaller than Moonridge or Blackwater, but respected by all for their wisdom, their connection to the old ways. Her eyes grew distant with memory. I was sent to form an alliance with them through mating with their alpha. Your grandfather, Roman's father, arranged it all. But you fell in love, I guessed. Deeply, she confirmed, and when I discovered I was pregnant, Adrian was overjoyed. Her expression darkened. That's when the council struck. They'd been watching, waiting. The Silvercrest pack had long opposed the council's manipulation of werewolf bloodlines. A child of Silvercrest and Moonridge royal blood, one that might inherit both alpha strength and omega gifts, was their greatest fear. Why? Roman asked, his brow furrowed. Why fear such a union? Because the council aren't werewolves, my mother replied. They're something older, something that feeds on our magic, our vitality. They've been manipulating the packs for centuries, keeping us divided, weakened, fighting amongst ourselves while they harvest our energy through artifacts like the Moonstone. I touched the pendant reflexively. This thing drains power from the pack? When controlled by the council, yes. But in the hands of its rightful owner, an alpha pair of pure royal lineage, it amplifies power instead. Creates bonds that even the council cannot break. Roman moved closer, his presence warm beside me. That's why they orchestrated the feud between Moonridge and Blackwater, why they eliminated the Silvercrest pack. My mother nodded. They couldn't risk a union that might produce a child capable of wielding the Moonstone against them. Her eyes filled with tears as she looked at me. I fled when they attacked. Adrian sacrificed himself so we could escape. I took the Moonstone, knowing they would track me through it, so I kept it dormant, hidden. She squeezed my hand. I did everything to suppress your werewolf nature, hoping you might live a normal human life, safe from their notice. But I found my way back anyway, I said softly. Blood calls to blood, Roman murmured. The territory knows its rightful queen. The weight of his words settled over me. Not just rhetoric, but truth. Something in the land itself had called me here, had awakened what my mother had tried to keep dormant. The council will come again, my mother warned. In force this time. Now that they know you can control the Moonstone, they'll stop at nothing to either possess you or destroy you. Let them try, Roman growled, his hand finding the small of my back in a protective gesture that sent warmth cascading through me. My mother's gaze moved between us, assessing. You haven't completed the mating bond, she observed. The Moonstone responds to her, but its full power won't awaken until you're truly paired. Heat rushed to my cheeks. We've only just met, I protested. A hint of amusement touched my mother's worn features. Werewolf matings rarely follow human courtship timelines, especially between true pairs. True pairs? I echoed. Souls matched by fate, Roman explained, his voice low. Rare even among werewolves. When a true pair bonds, their strength is magnified tenfold. His eyes met mine, silver and intense. I knew you were mine the moment you crossed into our territory. Even unconscious, your scent called to me like nothing I've ever known. The naked longing in his voice made something inside me clench with answering desire. I looked away, flustered by the intensity of his gaze and my own unexpected response to it. The council will expect us to complete the bond, my mother continued pragmatically. They'll attack before you can, while you're still vulnerable. Then we prepare. Roman straightened, alpha authority radiating from him. I'll call the allied packs, those still free of council influence. My mother shook her head. You can't trust any of them. The council has spies everywhere, even in Moonridge, a traitor. I remembered Serena's words from the previous day. We have 3 days until Vane returns, Roman said grimly. 3 days to identify the traitor, prepare our defenses, and decide our course of action. 2 days, corrected a voice from the doorway. We turned to find the young messenger from the previous night, his expression grim. Alpha, our scouts report Blackwater is mobilizing early, with reinforcements, forces wearing the violet eyes of the council's elite guard. Roman's jaw tightened. How many? At least 100 fighters. They're gathering at the border, setting up for a major offensive. They're not waiting, my mother whispered. They're coming now, while the Moonstone's power is still new to you, while you're uncertain. Roman turned to me, his expression intense. I would never rush you into a mating bond. That must be your choice, freely given. He looked back at the messenger. Prepare the pack for defense, full evacuation protocols for the young, the elderly, and the injured. The messenger nodded and left to carry out his orders. Roman turned back to my mother. Isabella, can you travel? She nodded weakly. If necessary. Good. You'll go with the evacuation group. His gaze returned to me. And you? I'm staying, I interrupted. If this is about me, about us, I won't run. Something like pride flashed in his eyes. I would never ask you to run, but I need to know you'll be safe while I organize our defenses. The Moonstone pulsed gently against my skin, warm and reassuring. I can help, I said, more confident than I felt. My abilities might be useful. Your abilities are still developing, my mother cautioned. Unpredictable. I thought of how I'd eased the injured fighter's pain, how I'd connected with Roman during battle, how the Moonstone had responded to my will against the Council's agents. Maybe unpredictable is exactly what we need right now. Roman studied me, conflict evident in his expression. Finally, he nodded. Stay with Serena. Learn what you can about your gifts. I'll coordinate our defenses and return before nightfall. He moved to leave, but I caught his arm, surprising both of us with the gesture. Be careful, I said softly. We've only just found each other. I'd like a chance to figure out what that means. His expression softened, and for a brief moment, his hand cupped my cheek, his thumb tracing my lower lip in a gesture so intimate it made my heart stutter. As would I, little Omega, as would I. Then he was gone, his absence leaving the room feeling somehow emptier. My mother watched me with knowing eyes. You feel it, don't you? The pull toward him. I nodded, unable to deny it. Is it real? Or just werewolf instinct? Does it matter? She asked gently. Real and instinct aren't mutually exclusive. What you feel is both, the recognition of a soul that complements yours, and the primal knowledge that together you are stronger than apart. Her words resonated with something deep inside me. I hardly know him, I protested weakly. You know the essential parts, she countered. his courage, his honor, his willingness to protect what's his. She smiled slightly. The rest comes with time. Serena cleared her throat from the doorway. If you're to help us, we should begin your training immediately. I squeezed my mother's hand. Rest. We'll talk more later. She nodded, her eyes already drooping with exhaustion. Be careful who you trust, she murmured as I stood to leave. The traitor will be someone close to Roman, someone with access to pack information. With that troubling warning echoing in my mind, I followed Serena through the lodge. Pack members rushed about in organized chaos, preparing for the coming battle. Some nodded respectfully as we passed. Others watched with curious eyes, but all moved with purpose and determination. Serena led me to a small circular room deep within the lodge, its walls lined with herbs and crystals, a skylight in the domed ceiling allowing sunlight to pool on the wooden floor. This is the heart room, she explained, where Omegas traditionally trained and worked. I stepped into the center of the sunlight, feeling its warmth seep into my skin. What exactly am I supposed to do? First, understand the extent of your gifts. Serena moved around me, adjusting the curtains to let in more light. An Omega's primary ability is emotional influence, soothing pain, calming rage, strengthening courage. But combined with alpha blood, she shook her head in wonder. The possibilities are untested. The moonstone responded to me, I said, touching the pendant, created some kind of shield, protection magic. Serena nodded. Ancient and powerful, but I suspect there's more. She guided me through exercises. First simple meditation, then more complex tasks focused on extending my awareness beyond my physical body. Hours passed as I struggled to grasp what she was teaching, frustration mounting as I failed more often than succeeded. You're fighting your instincts, Serena observed, her patience apparently inexhaustible. Stop thinking like a human, feel like a wolf. I don't know how, I admitted, running a hand through my hair. Yes, you do, her voice softened. When you helped that injured fighter, when you connected with Roman during battle, you weren't thinking then. You were feeling. I closed my eyes, trying to recapture that state, the openness, the certainty, the connection that had flowed through me in those moments. The pendant warmed against my skin, encouraging. Good, Serena murmured. Now, reach outward, find the pack bonds. They're like threads connecting every member to the alpha, and through him, to each other. I focused, extending my awareness beyond the room. At first, there was nothing. Then, slowly, I began to sense them, filaments of emotion and connection radiating outward like a vast, complex web. At the center was Roman, his presence a burning star of power and purpose. I can feel them, I whispered, amazed. All of them. Now follow one thread, Serena instructed. Anyone in particular? Without hesitation, my awareness followed the strongest connection. The tether binding me to Roman. I found him immediately, felt his determination, his focus, his underlying concern for the pack, for me. He was in the forest, organizing defenses, issuing commands. Then I sensed something else, someone watching him from the shadows, their presence clouded with deception and malice. Someone's there, I gasped, my eyes flying open. Someone's watching Roman, someone who means him harm. Serena's expression sharpened. The traitor? I think so. I couldn't see who it was, just feel their intent. Can you find that thread again? Follow it back to its source? I closed my eyes once more, seeking the malevolent presence I'd sensed. The pack bonds spread before me again. But now something was different. A thread that seemed darker than the others, tainted. I followed it cautiously, tracing it back through the web. As I drew closer to its source, a chill swept through me. The presence at the end of that thread was familiar. Someone close to us, someone I'd met since awakening in this new life. My eyes snapped open as realization hit. It's... The door burst open, cutting off my words. A young pack member stood there, breathless and wide-eyed. They're coming! Blackwater has crossed the border, Serena cursed, moving swiftly to the window. They're early. Roman expected another day at least to prepare. They must have sensed what we were doing, I said, the moonstone growing hot against my skin. Felt me learning to use my abilities. Serena turned to me, decision in her eyes. We need to get you to Roman, now. We hurried from the heart room, following the sounds of commotion through the lodge. Pack members rushed about, some shifting to wolf form as they headed for the exits, others gathering weapons or ushering the vulnerable toward the evacuation routes. This way, Serena urged, leading me toward a side entrance. We'll circle through the eastern woods. It's longer but safer than the direct route. As we stepped outside, the scents and sounds of the forest hit me with new intensity. My enhanced senses picked up far more than I was accustomed to. The musty odor of deer that had passed through hours ago, the distant rushing of a stream, the subtle shift in the wind carrying the acrid smell of approaching enemies. They're close, I whispered. Serena nodded grimly. Stay near me. If we encounter hostiles, I'll hold them off while you run. Find Roman at all costs. We moved swiftly through the trees, Serena setting a punishing pace. I followed as best I could, surprised by how my body seemed to know what to do, moving with a grace and surety I'd never possessed before. The forest thickened around us, ancient trees looming overhead, their canopy blocking much of the afternoon sun. The shadows deepened, bringing with them a sense of unease that prickled along my spine. Serena stopped suddenly, her posture alert, head tilted as she scented the air. Something's wrong, she murmured. The trail is too quiet, I focused, extending my awareness as she'd taught me. She was right. The normal sounds of the forest had fallen silent. No birds sang. No small creatures rustled in the underbrush. Even the insects had stilled. We're being watched, I whispered, the moonstone growing warm against my skin. Clever Omega, came a voice from the shadows. A figure stepped out from behind a massive oak, the young messenger who had brought news of my mother, of Blackwater's advance. Serena shifted immediately, her body flowing into wolf form with fluid grace, positioning herself between me and the threat. The messenger smiled, and in that smile I saw the truth. This was the traitor, the dark thread I'd sensed in the pack bonds. The council sends its regards, he said, his eyes glowing that unnatural violet. And thanks you for leading the Omega right to me. You're working for the council, I breathed, pieces falling into place. You've been feeding them information all along. The young messenger's smile widened, something inhuman in its curve. For generations, my bloodline has served the true masters of our kind. His form rippled slightly, like a mirage in desert heat. We who understand the natural order, Serena growled, her wolf form tense and ready to attack. The messenger, or whatever he truly was, seemed unconcerned by her threat. The natural order, I echoed, keeping my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. Manipulating packs against each other? Torturing my mother? Murdering entire bloodlines? Necessary pruning, he said dismissively. Werewolves are tools, vessels of power to be harvested. Nothing more. He stepped closer, eyes fixed on the pendant at my throat. That stone has fueled the council for centuries. Combined with Omega energy and Royal Alpha blood, it will sustain us for centuries more. Serena lunged without warning, her powerful body aimed directly at his throat. But he moved with impossible speed, sidestepping her attack and catching her mid-leap. With a casual strength that belied his slender form, he hurled her against a massive tree trunk. The impact shook the forest, leaves raining down as Serena crumpled at its base, unmoving. "Serena," I cried, starting toward her. "She lives," the messenger said coldly. "For now. The council prefers you come willingly, but they will accept damaged goods if necessary." He extended a hand. "Come with me, and your friends will be spared further pain." I backed away, clutching the moonstone. "You're lying. The council means to drain me. Use me." "Use, yes. Drain." He tilted his head, considering. "Eventually. But not before you've served your purpose." "Which is?" "To lure every remaining royal bloodline into one place, of course." His violet eyes gleamed. "When Roman falls into our trap, When the last Alpha Kings and Queens come to stand with him against Blackwater, the Council will eliminate every potential threat in a single stroke. Horror washed over me. This whole conflict, Blackwater, my awakening, it's all been orchestrated? The Council has planned this for decades, he said with chilling pride. Your mother's escape was unexpected, but in the end, it merely delayed the inevitable. Blood calls to blood, after all. You were bound to find your way here eventually. The pendant burned against my skin, responding to my mounting anger. This creature and his masters had manipulated my entire life, had tortured my mother, had destroyed my father's pack, and now they planned to eliminate Roman and anyone else who might stand against them. I thought of Roman, his fierce protectiveness, his unexpected gentleness, the way he'd looked at me like I was something precious, rather than something to be used. Something deep within me hardened with resolve. I would not let them take this from me. Not my newfound family, not my heritage, and certainly not my choice. You're right about one thing, I said, straightening my spine. Blood does call to blood, and with that, I wrapped my hand around the moonstone and called for Roman with every fiber of my being, sending my fear, my determination, and my location surging along the tether that connected us. The pendant flared with brilliant blue light, momentarily blinding my captor. His cry of surprise was cut short as a massive black shape crashed through the underbrush, slamming into him with devastating force. Roman in wolf form was more terrifying than I'd imagined, larger than any natural wolf. His midnight fur bristling with power, silver eyes blazing with rage. The messenger recovered quickly, his form shifting in ways that defied natural law, not to wolf, but to something else. Something with too many joints and violet eyes that multiplied across a face that stretched and contorted. The Council's disguise fell away, revealing the creature beneath, ancient, powerful, and utterly inhuman. Roman attacked again, his massive jaws seeking vulnerable points, but the creature's flesh seemed to flow and reform, wounds closing almost as quickly as they were inflicted. It laughed, the sound grating against my senses. "Foolish Alpha," it taunted. "We've consumed thousands of your kind. What makes you think you're different?" It struck with blinding speed, catching Roman mid-lunge and slamming him to the ground. Claws that hadn't been visible moments before raked across his flank, drawing blood that steamed in the cool forest air. I felt his pain as if it were my own, the connection between us vibrating with it. But beneath the pain was something else: determination, protective fury, and a desperate need to keep me safe even at the cost of his own life. In that moment, I understood what my mother had meant. True pairs. Souls matched by fate. This fierce, powerful Alpha was fighting to his last breath for me. Not because I was Omega, not because of prophecy or power, but because something in him recognized something in me. As it always had, always would. The moonstone pulsed against my palm, and I knew what I had to do. "Roman," I called, my voice steadier than I'd expected. "Trust me." His silver eyes found mine even as he struggled beneath the council creature's grip. In that gaze I saw complete trust, absolute faith. I closed my eyes, focusing on the tether between us, on the pendant's warmth, on the ancient power that had been dormant in my blood until 3 days ago. Following instinct older than conscious thought, I opened myself fully to that power, embracing both my Omega nature and the Alpha heritage that was my birthright. The moonstone's blue light engulfed me, spreading outward in pulsing waves. I felt Roman's presence intensify, his energy merging with mine across the bond that had been forming since the moment we'd met. Not complete. We hadn't performed the mating ritual, but strong enough. Strong enough for this. "Blood calls to blood," I whispered, and let the power flow through me, through the stone, through our connection. The light solidified around Roman, lifting him from beneath the creature's grasp. His wounds closed before my eyes, his strength visibly returning. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the blue radiance. "Impossible," it hissed. "The stone cannot be controlled without a completed bond." "You understand so little," I said, the words coming from somewhere beyond conscious thought. "True power comes not from control, but from choice." From surrender. I met Roman's gaze across the clearing. From trust, freely given. Roman's wolf form seemed to absorb the light, his silver eyes glowing with the same blue luminescence as the moonstone. When he moved again, it was with impossible speed and power, his jaws closing around the creature's throat before it could react. This time, when his teeth tore through its flesh, the wounds didn't close. The creature thrashed and screamed, its form destabilizing as Roman's moonstone-enhanced strength overcame whatever dark magic sustained it. With a final, terrible shriek, it collapsed into itself, its body dissolving into a viscous fluid that seeped into the forest floor, leaving only a violet residue that steamed and then evaporated in the dappled sunlight. Silence fell over the clearing. Roman shifted back to human form, his naked body streaked with blood, both his and the creature's. He crossed to me in 3 long strides, his hands cupping my face with such tenderness it made my heart ache. "You called to me," he said, wonder in his voice. "I heard you, felt you. The moonstone. Not just the stone." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You. I felt you." The intensity in his gaze made it difficult to breathe. Before I could respond, a soft whine reminded us we weren't alone. Serena was stirring, her wolf form struggling to stand. Roman moved to her side, helping her rise. "Easy," he murmured. "You took a hard hit." She shifted back to human form, wincing as she touched her ribs. "The messenger was a council agent," I finished. "He's gone now. But there will be others. Many others," came a new voice. We turned to find my mother at the edge of the clearing, leaning heavily on a staff but standing under her own power. The council never sends just one. "Mom," I moved to her side, supporting her. "You should be resting, preparing to evacuate." "I felt the moonstone activate," she said, her gaze moving between Roman and me. "Felt what you did." "The evacuation can wait," she looked at Roman. "Blackwater has breached the southern perimeter, with council forces backing them." Roman's expression hardened. "How many?" "Too many for a direct confrontation," she said grimly. "But I know another way." She drew herself up straighter, some of her old strength returning to her bearing. "There are tunnels beneath the old Silvercrest territory that connect to Moonridge. Ancient pathways only the royal bloodline knows about. Tunnels that would allow us to outflank them," Roman said, understanding immediately. My mother nodded. "If we can get the pack there in time." Roman turned to me, decision in his eyes. "We need to complete the bond," he said directly. "Now. With the full power of a true alpha pair and the moonstone, we might have a chance." My heart stuttered. "The mating bond? Here? Now?" "Not the physical mating," he clarified, though heat flared in his gaze at the thought. "The ritual bond, the sharing of blood and intent." His hand found mine, warm and strong. "If you're willing." I looked at my mother, at Serena, both watching with solemn eyes. This was my choice, perhaps the first real choice I'd had since waking in this new life. Not fate or prophecy or manipulation, but a decision only I could make. I thought of the prophecy's warning about the greatest sacrifice, about bleeding as one. Was this what it meant? Not death, but the willing surrender of my old life, my old identity, to embrace something larger. The moonstone warmed against my skin, neither urging nor discouraging. Waiting. Just as Roman was waiting, his eyes intent on mine, but making no move to pressure me. "Yes," I said finally, certainty flowing through me. "I'm willing." Relief and joy flashed across his face, quickly replaced by solemn purpose. He turned to my mother. "Isabella, as the elder of both bloodlines, will you witness and bless?" She straightened, years seeming to fall away as she stepped forward. "I will witness and bless the union of royal blood, the joining of true pairs, the fulfillment of ancient prophecy." Roman took my hands in his, the simple touch sending electricity through me. "The ritual is simple but binding," he explained softly. "We share blood, we share intent, we share the moonstone's power. Once done, it cannot be undone." I nodded my understanding, oddly unafraid. "Tell me what to do." Under my mother's guidance, we knelt facing each other in the center of the clearing. Serena gathered specific herbs and flowers, creating a circle around us. My mother took the moonstone from around my neck, holding it between us. With this stone, symbol of pack unity and royal authority, I witnessed the bonding of Roman, Alpha King of Moonridge, and... She paused, looking at me. I never even asked your name, she realized, tears springing to her eyes. Eve, I said softly. My name is Eve. She smiled, recognition in her eyes. The name we chose before you were born, you remembered. I always loved it, I said, my own eyes growing damp. Even not knowing why, she continued the ritual, the bonding of Roman, Alpha King of Moonridge, and Eve, daughter of Isabella and Adrian, heir to Silvercrest, Omega, and Alpha both. Roman's eyes never left mine as my mother guided us through ancient words in a language I somehow understood, though I'd never heard it before. When the time came, he drew a ceremonial knife across his palm, then mine, our blood mingling as we clasped hands. The moonstone, suspended between us in my mother's grasp, began to glow. First blue, then silver, then a blinding white that seemed to penetrate flesh and bone. I gasped as Roman's consciousness flooded into mine, his memories, his fears, his hopes, his unwavering certainty that I was meant to be his. In turn, I felt him receiving my thoughts, my doubts, my newfound courage, my growing affection for him. I see you, his voice whispered in my mind. I know you. And I choose you, freely and completely. I see you, I answered silently. I know you. And I choose you, freely and completely. The moonstone's light intensified until it filled the clearing, spreading outward in a wave that rippled through the forest. I felt it touch every member of the pack, strengthening bonds, healing wounds, conveying our intent and determination. And beyond our territory, I felt the council creatures recoil as the light reached them, burning away their disguises, revealing them for what they were, severing their hold on those they'd manipulated. When the light finally receded, the world seemed forever changed. I could feel Roman not just beside me, but within me, a constant presence in my mind and heart. The tether between us had become an unbreakable bond, thrumming with shared power and purpose. My mother placed the moonstone back around my neck, now marked with both our blood. It is done, she said formally, then broke into a smile of genuine joy. The bond is formed, the prophecy fulfilled. Roman helped me to my feet, his touch sending pleasant shivers through me. My queen, he said softly, reverence in his voice. My king, I replied, the words feeling right on my tongue. Serena approached, dropping to one knee before us. Alpha pair, she acknowledged. The pack feels the bond. They await your command. Roman turned to my mother. The tunnels, he said urgently. Can you guide us? She nodded. I remember the way, but we must hurry. The council will sense what we've done. Will know their agent has failed. Roman closed his eyes briefly, and I felt him sending thoughts along the pack bonds. Instructions, rally points, battle plans. The efficiency of it was remarkable. Information flowing instantly to every pack member through the Alpha's connection. Let's move, he said, opening his eyes. The pack will meet us at the Silvercrest border. As we made our way through the forest, Roman's hand firm in mine, I marveled at how different everything felt. The world seemed sharper, more vivid, more connected. Through our bond, I sensed Roman's thoughts, his fierce determination, his strategic planning, and beneath it all, a deep current of tenderness when he thought of me. You're adapting quickly, his voice murmured in my mind. I have an excellent teacher, I replied, squeezing his hand. The journey to the Silvercrest border passed in tense silence. Twice we detected council creatures in the forest and changed course to avoid them. Through our strengthened pack bonds, we sensed the movements of Blackwater forces, manipulated pawns in the council's game. Roman explained silently. When we reached the ancient fallen stones that marked Silvercrest territory, the pack was waiting as commanded. Nearly 200 wolves and half-shifted fighters gathered in disciplined formation. They parted as we approached, heads bowing in recognition of their alpha pair. They feel different, I whispered to Roman. Stronger. The completed bond and the awakened moonstone amplify pack connections, he explained. They're drawing strength from us, as we draw from them. My mother led us to what appeared to be an unremarkable outcropping of rock. With trembling fingers, she traced a pattern invisible to any eye but a Silvercrest Royals. The stone shimmered, then seemed to melt away, revealing a dark passageway leading beneath the earth. These tunnels were created during the First Council Wars, she explained, when all packs still stood united against them. Only royal blood can open the passages. Roman turned to the assembled fighters. We'll emerge behind the Council and Blackwater forces. When you feel my command through the bond, attack without mercy. Show no quarter to the violet-eyed ones. They're council, not werewolf, and cannot be reasoned with. He looked at me, a question in his eyes. Ready? I nodded, drawing strength from our connection. Ready. We descended into the tunnels, my mother leading the way with Roman and me directly behind her, the pack following in silent formation. The passageways were ancient but solid, marked with symbols that seemed to glow faintly as we passed. I felt the weight of history pressing down. Generations of werewolves who had walked these paths before us, fighting the same enemy we now faced. After what seemed like hours of navigating the twisting tunnels, my mother stopped, placing her hand on another marked stone. We're directly behind where they've gathered, she whispered. This will open into a ravine that provides perfect cover for an ambush. Roman turned to the assembled pack. Remember, Council creatures first, Blackwater second. Many of Blackwater's fighters are drugged, manipulated. Subdue if possible, kill only if necessary. You're showing mercy to our enemies? I asked through our bond, surprised. I'm following my queen's compassion, he replied, warmth in his mental voice. I felt your concern for them through the bond. His understanding, his willingness to adapt his battle strategy to accommodate my empathy, touched me deeply. My mother activated the stone door, which slid open silently to reveal a steep ravine, bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. Above us, we could hear the sounds of Blackwater and Council forces preparing for their assault on the Moonridge Lodge, unaware that the pack had already evacuated, that their prey was now behind them. Roman shifted to wolf form, his massive black shape even more impressive than before, power radiating from him in palpable waves. Through our bond, I felt his battle focus, his protective instinct, his absolute determination to end the Council's threat once and for all. Without conscious thought, I found myself shifting too, my first full transformation. There was a moment of disorientation as my body changed, bones reshaping, senses sharpening even further. When it finished, I stood beside Roman in wolf form. Smaller than his massive bulk, but sleek and powerful, my fur a pale golden color that seemed to catch and hold the sunlight. Beautiful. Roman's voice caressed my mind. Just as I knew you would be. Through our bond, he sent the command to attack. As one, the pack surged forward, a coordinated wave of fur and fang and focused fury. We crested the ravine to find the enemy forces completely unprepared. Council creatures disguised as werewolves commanding a mixed force of Blackwater wolves and violet-eyed guards. In the center stood Vane, Blackwater's alpha, his expression shifting from confidence to shock as he beheld our emergence from what should have been an impossible direction. The battle that followed was both terrible and beautiful, the coordinated precision of our pack flowing like water around obstacles, targeting the Council creatures first as commanded. The moonstone at my throat, somehow still there despite my transformation, pulsed with power that spread through our ranks, strengthening, healing, connecting. Roman and I fought side by side, our movements perfectly synchronized through the bond, each aware of the other's position and intentions, without need for communication. When one Council creature nearly flanked him, I was there to intercept. When three surrounded me, he cleared a path to my side with devastating efficiency. Across the battlefield, I spotted Vane engaged with several of our fighters. Through the moonstone's enhanced perception, I could see what others couldn't. The subtle violet glow at the base of his skull, the sign of Council control. Not a willing conspirator, but a puppet. His aggression artificially inflamed by Council manipulation. Roman, I sent through our bond. Vane is being controlled, like the others. His silver gaze found mine across the chaos. Can you free him? I didn't know if I could, but I had to try. Fighting my way toward Blackwater's alpha, I called on the Moonstone's power, channeling it through my Omega abilities. Not to soothe or calm, but to cleanse, to sever the parasitic connection I could now perceive. When I reached him, Vane snarled and lunged for my throat. I dodged, then pressed my muzzle directly to the violet glow at the base of his skull. The Moonstone flared, its light burning through fur and flesh to reach the Council's control mechanism beneath. Vane howled, not in rage but in agony, then relief as the Council's hold shattered. He collapsed, his body convulsing briefly before growing still. For a terrible moment, I feared I'd killed him. Then his eyes opened, clear of the drug-induced frenzy that had driven him before. "Thank you," his voice whispered in my mind, weak but lucid. Around us, the battle was turning decisively in our favor. With each council creature that fell, more Blackwater wolves were freed from control, many turning immediately to help us against their former masters. The pack bonds extended, encompassing these new allies in a network of mutual support and shared purpose. At the center of the battlefield, Roman confronted what appeared to be the Council's leader, a creature whose disguise had partly melted away, revealing iridescent scales beneath the approximation of human flesh. They circled each other, both bloodied, both dangerous. I fought my way to Roman's side, arriving just as the Council leader launched a final, desperate attack. Together, Roman and I met the charge, the Moonstone's power flowing through both of us, magnified by our completed bond. Our combined strength tore through the creature's defenses, through the ancient magic that had sustained it for centuries. As it died, its true form revealed itself momentarily, something so alien and wrong that my mind could barely process the sight, before it collapsed into the same viscous fluid as its agent had in the forest. Silence fell across the battlefield as the remaining council creatures, sensing their leader's death, fled into the gathering dusk. The Blackwater wolves stood uncertain, free of control, but wary of their former enemies. Roman shifted back to human form, and I followed his lead, the transformation easier this time. He stood tall and proud, bloodied but unbroken, reaching for my hand. "Blackwater wolves," he called, his alpha voice carrying across the field. "For generations, the Council has set our packs against each other, has poisoned your minds and bodies with their drugs and control. Today, that ends." Vane approached cautiously, having also returned to human form. The years of drug-induced rage had taken their toll. His body was gaunt, his movements painful, but his eyes were clear for perhaps the first time in decades. "Moonridge has been my enemy since before I was born," he said, his voice rough. "Or so I was taught." "You were taught lies," my mother said, stepping forward from where she'd watched the battle. "As were we all." Recognition dawned in Vane's eyes. "Isabella," he breathed. "You live." She inclined her head. "No thanks to the Council who tortured me for 20 years, who turned your pack into their personal army." Vane turned back to Roman and me, studying us with new understanding. "The prophecy," he said softly. "The alpha pair who would break the Council's bonds. The beginning of their end," Roman confirmed. "But much remains to be done. Other packs to free, other Council strongholds to destroy." "Blackwater stands with you," Vane declared, dropping to one knee before us. "If you will have us." Roman looked at me, deferring to my judgment in a way that made my heart swell. Through our bond, I felt his willingness to accept this peace, tempered with caution born of generations of enmity. "Rise," I said to Vane, my voice steady with newfound authority. "There has been enough kneeling, enough submission. From this day forward, all packs stand as equals against our true enemy." A cheer rose from the assembled wolves, Moonridge and Blackwater together, their voices unified in a howl that echoed through the mountains. As night fell fully, we made our way back to the Moonridge Lodge, a procession of former enemies now united in common purpose. The injured were tended, the dead honored, the future discussed in councils that lasted until dawn. Through it all, Roman remained by my side, our bond a constant comfort and source of strength. When we finally found a moment alone, standing on the same balcony where we had spoken that morning, though it felt like a lifetime had passed, he pulled me into his arms. "My queen," he murmured, his lips brushing my temple. "My mate." I leaned into his embrace, feeling the rightness of it down to my bones. 3 days ago, I was just a woman searching for her missing mother, I mused. Now I'm an Omega werewolf, alpha queen, and bondmate to the most powerful alpha in the region. His chuckle rumbled pleasantly against my body. "Disappointed?" "Overwhelmed," I admitted. "But not disappointed." I tilted my face up to his. "I woke up as an Omega in your pack, unaware you'd already chosen me. But in the end, I chose you too." "You did," he agreed, his eyes darkening with emotion. "The most precious gift I've ever received." As his lips found mine in our first true kiss, the moonstone pulsed gently between us. No longer a symbol of control and manipulation, but of unity and shared strength. The prophecy had been fulfilled, the sacrifice made, not of life, but of my former self, surrendered willingly to become something more. Through our bond, I felt Roman's love washing over me. Patient and fierce, protective and freeing, everything I hadn't known I needed until I found it. And beneath the tumult of new emotions and responsibilities, I felt something I'd searched for my entire life. Home. Not a place, but a connection. Not fate, but choice. Roman's arms tightened around me as he deepened the kiss, and through our bond, I sent him my answering certainty. I had awakened as an Omega in his pack, but I would remain as his queen by choice, by love, by the bonds we had forged together. And no council, no enemy, no force on earth would ever tear us apart.